Alright, what's up everybody? This is the Street 3 here, back to a brand new video. Week 9 of our weekly recap of college football. The games, the upsets, the scores, the stats, etc., etc. It's also a Sunday. They always come out about 1 p.m., a little after 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. And a whole game thrown away. Also known as the No Fun League. But we're not here to talk about the NFL. We're here to talk about college football, the superior football. Let's get into it. Coming up first, a Thursday game. I knew we had Friday games. I didn't even know we had. Actually, we had Wednesday games. Liberty undefeated. They are a former FCS school, I believe, that has made the jump to FBS. I actually had a friend who actually played basketball at Liberty when they made the March Madness tournament. But they were one of the few remaining unbeaten teams. Obviously, a very small school, but still unbeaten. They lost. Not only did they lose, they lost to a team that hadn't won all year, and that was that team's first win was us at them. So big. I personally would have liked Liberty to go undefeated, but unfortunately that is not the case. But crazy game. We were given that on Wednesday. Obviously they're not in the top 25, so it's not in this top 25 scoreboard. But we had a game on Thursday, Syracuse and Pittsburgh. Now Syracuse, this game, many projected that it could be an upset or a very, very close game because Syracuse is a lot better this year with the addition of Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord, as we all know, I've said this many, many times, is the former Ohio State quarterback. He was the starter last year. And he lost one game at Ohio State, and that was to Michigan, which then removed Ohio State from the college football playoff. And because he lost to Michigan, they wanted to look elsewhere. They thought that he was the weak point. And yes and no. But obviously, they decided to let him walk through the transfer and pick up Will Howard on the transfer portal instead. So he went to Syracuse, the ACC team. They are 5-2, 2-2 in the ACC. They're a decent team. I think they lost that Stanford game, which I think they really should have won and probably may have changed their trajectory for the year. But they're playing Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is one of the few remaining unbeaten, so people thought that they were finally might get beat here. But the opposite happened. As you can see before you, Pittsburgh absolutely torched Syracuse, who didn't even score the first half. In fact, Kyle McCord throws 3 pick sixes. Not 1, not 2, but 3, and a total of 5 interceptions. Which is, it's gotta be a record, right? 3 pick sixes in one game has to be a record. Maybe in 5 interceptions a game has to be a record. He threw for 64 times for 321 yards, but had 5 interceptions. And Pittsburgh blows them out, 41-13. Now, he had 5 interceptions, 3 pick sixes, but still, as you can see, was the best quote-unquote quarterback of the day. So that means Pittsburgh probably struggled a lot offensively, but it was their defense that scored. Because that's 21 points right there. So that's over half of their points scored on defense. And 5 interceptions, so who knows if those 2 interceptions resulted in scores as well. So, essentially, just a fluke of a game. You might say, oh, Pittsburgh has a great defense, or Kyle McCord just sucks, but that obviously is a fluke because that probably has not happened in the entire history of college football. I don't really know that for a fact, but probably. So Pittsburgh, wow, that is very impressive. And very unfortunate for Kyle McCord. I think if we go to his stats real quick, let's click on him. He has 11 interceptions. So before the game, he only had 6. So now he has 5. So he's 19-11, which is not very good. That is the type of stats that you see when I play my Hawaii Dynasty because I am sucking at throwing. So obviously the reason why Ohio State got rid of him is because his decision making is subpar and he's turnover prone. So perhaps Ohio State made the right choice in getting rid of Kyle McCord, but I don't know. Because Will Howard has did some questionable decisions as well. But let's continue. Boise State and UNLV. Now UNLV at one point was undefeated. I think they've gone 1-2 or maybe 0-2 since then. But the Heisman frontrunner Ashton Jeanty had 128 yards, 30 carries, 1 touchdown, continues to lead the nation. Boise State wins, and a close one, 29-24. And they're now 6-1. The only loss being to number 1 Oregon, which they probably could have won. That would have been crazy if Boise State would have beat that team. And I wish they would have. I've always been a big fan of Boise State ever since they were in the top 4 with Kellen Moore back in the day when they upset Oklahoma. And people were thinking that they should be in the top 2 national championship. That's how good they were. I miss those days, and I hope that those days are returning because Boise State is one of the coolest teams. Like they got the blue field, got the cool uniforms, cool colors, cool branding. The mascot, not the mascot, the logo, everything about Boise State is super, super cool. So I hope they continue to dominate. They will be joining the Pac-12, the newly created Pac-12. A lot of smaller schools will now be joining Oregon State and Washington State, and I'm really rooting for Boise State to continue and return to its prowess and domination. Texas and Vanderbilt. This game is 27-24, but this game is a lot closer than it should have been. Texas, for the first time, I think all year, forced the quarterback Pavia, whatever his name is, 2 interceptions. Should have had 3. The thing with Texas is they were clearly the better team, way more skilled, more athletes. They essentially were doing whatever they wanted against Vanderbilt, but it was the continued mistake-riddled Texas, both on offense and defense. That the O-line played horrible again. They are regressing since the Georgia game. They have played horrible for 2 straight games now, holding penalties, etc., etc. Defense played very, very well, I think. Quinn Ewers played well, even though his offensive line was not holding the line like they should have for him. He still played well. But it was the penalties and the mistakes kept mounting and mounting for Texas and kept Vanderbilt in this game. This should have been a 21-point game or more, period. I think this game should have been the game that proved that Vanderbilt was not a good team and that the Alabama game was a complete fluke and that they have no business being in the top 25. That's what this game should have been. So Texas gets this pick 6, which would have sealed the game and would have had them up by 10 points. Actually, would have had them up by more than 10 points. Would have had them up by, I think, 14 maybe. I forget. But instead, it's a targeting call. Broughton is the name. Quarterback throws it. It's a pick 6. After he throws it, Broughton then tackles him. Not only tackles him when he could have gotten out of the way, but he leads with his head. It was helmet-to-helmet contact. That's easy targeting. He's ejected. And the pick 6 is reversed. And then Vanderbilt goes down and scores. Then they don't get the onside. And game over, essentially. Texas only beats them by 3. So it was a worse... It probably was the worst win possible, essentially. It's insane that for a long time Texas was good on offense with last year with Quinn Ewers, and even with Sam Ehlinger, they were pretty decent. And for all that time, it was a defense that was horrible. And now we have the best defense in the nation. Period. We give up the least amount of yards and the least amount of points by a long shot. Whereas our offense is struggling because offensive line is one of the worst. It's one of the worst 2-game stretches I've seen in the history of Texas, offensive line-wise. Like, that is the bread and butter of why we suck. No explanation, no anything about it. It's the offensive line that is demolishing this team's ability to be contenders. And if they don't figure it out, Texas will not even make the playoff. Because they've got a big stretch of games coming. I think they play Ole Miss and A&M. A&M looks dangerous. We're just going to put that out there. So we'll see if Texas can fix the mistakes. If they can, I think if they can fix the mistakes and get back to where they should be, like many teams, they are a national championship contender, but it's questionable. You never know. Illinois and Oregon. This one was a big one. People thought that Illinois could come out with a big upset here over the undefeated number 1 Oregon Ducks. That was not the case. 38-9. It was a blowout. Illinois only scored 3 points in the half, and I'm assuming that's 6 as 2 field goals. They probably didn't score a touchdown all game long. Let's look at the game cast here. Let's look at the quarterback for Illinois. 2 interceptions, for Altmaier. and no touchdowns. No touchdowns for Illinois. That was a dominant performance, extremely dominant performance for Oregon. And honestly, that is a statement win. Say, hey, Oregon is the real deal. We are the real number one team in the nation. We are the best team in football right now. Come try us. Come at us. The championship goes through us. That's what they're saying here. And kudos to them, because again, as we've said, they started off really poorly in the first couple games, and they dropped from number 3 to number 8 or 9 because they were playing really bad teams, really small schools, and it was close, and they were almost losing. And they beat Ohio State. And ever since then, they have been on a tear, and they look deadly. Dillon Gabriel left Oklahoma, and good Lord, what a good choice, because Oklahoma is now 4-4 and have not won a single Big 12 game. I mean, sorry, SEC game yet, I don't think. No, they won one. They beat Auburn, that's it. And they barely beat Auburn. So Oregon is a real deal. Dillon Gabriel is a great quarterback. One of the Heisman favorites. One of the best quarterbacks in the nation this year. Penn State and Wisconsin. Another one of those games that people thought maybe Penn State finally gets beat. But they win 28-13. Wisconsin falls to 5-3. And their quarterback is down. I wonder how late he's out. Let's look at that. First half, a little awkwardly. Brace on his left knee. Huh. So Aller might be out for a bit if he has a knee brace, but we don't know. Because that is a big loss. He's a good quarterback. Penn State for many years has needed a good quarterback play to put them over the top, and they finally got it. He might be hurt. The backup did well, but we'll see if the backup continues to play or not. Ohio State and Nebraska, another one of those games. Nebraska is a pretty good team with Dylan Raiola, the freshman quarterback, who instead of going to Georgia went to Nebraska. And Ohio State pulls away with the win, 21-17. But Ohio State is sloppy in a 21-17 win. That's still a low-scoring game, but do what needs to be done, and they win. Florida State continues its worst season maybe ever. They're 1-7, 1-6. They got smacked by Miami, 36-14. It was funny. The head coach of Miami at the end of the game in press conference said, "This game is a statement win, showing all the Florida recruits that Miami is. If you want to stay in Miami and be in a good football program, you go to Miami, not Florida State." And I think Florida State's going to continue to go down in a trend because wow. So I love this downfall of Florida State, as like most people do. But Miami stays undefeated. Now this was the big game of the year, not the end of the year. Sorry, the game of the week. LSU and A&M. LSU traveling to College Station, and A&M, as you can see at the half, was down 17-7. A&M in the second half scores 31 and only gives up 6 points. They benched Wegman again in favor of the other quarterback. And he is a dual threat quarterback, much different than Wegman, who was a pocket passer, who was prone to mistakes. And him coming in changed. And the defense for A&M was unbelievable. Like Reed was only two. Like look at this. Look at this. Marcus Reed is the quarterback. Only passed it 2 times for 2 touchdowns. I'm sorry, for 70 yards in that second half. And he had 3 rushing touchdowns, which is insane to me. Insane to me. So now they got a decision. Do they play Wegman, who at some games has looked great, and many other games has looked really, really bad? Because A&M has one of the best defenses in the nation, in my opinion. They have a great defense, but it's their offense that struggles a lot. Reed came into the game, and because he's so dynamic, LSU couldn't adjust because they were prepared for Wegman, cutting off those passing lanes, forcing him into mistakes, bad throws. But to play a dual threat quarterback who can run at you like a running back can is a totally different game plan. And LSU did not adjust, and it was too little, too late, and they got blown out in the second half. And A&M, statement win for them, saying, "Hey, we're the real deal. We are 5-0. We're number one in the SEC. We're the best team in the SEC. The SEC doesn't run through Georgia, Texas, Bama, LSU. It runs through us." And that was because when we saw them play Notre Dame, we're like, "Oh shit, they got one of the worst." I said that. Wegman is the worst Power 5 quarterback in the nation besides DJ Uiagalelei. And A&M sucks. They're going to have a long year. And they haven't lost since, and they're undefeated in the SEC. So they are the real deal this year under this new coach. They are the real deal. And who knows what they could do the rest of the season. LSU falls to 6-2. Huge loss for them, possibly pushing them out of the playoff contention. Because they've got to win out and they got a chance. Because they got a lot of tough teams coming up. They don't play Bama this year, but they gotta win out and make some upsets of their own if they want to stay in the hunt playoffs. BYU and UCF, this game was a little close. Not really, because you see they scored 14 in the fourth quarter, so it wasn't really that close. It was 10 to 34 to the fourth quarter. So BYU stays undefeated, wins 37-24. The team that was projected towards the bottom of the Big 12 is now the best team in the Big 12, undefeated. Notre Dame and Navy. Navy was undefeated. So was Army. So people were hoping that Navy and Army would meet because they both played Notre Dame. So people were hoping that Navy and Army would meet in the Army-Navy game, undefeated. Whoever wins goes to the playoff. And no. Notre Dame forces 6 turnovers. So probably Navy's worst game of the year couldn't come at a worse time against Notre Dame. Whoever's average since losing to NIU, who's now 4-4 by the way, have looked prime time. They win 51-14 in a shocking blowout. And whoa, Indiana and Washington. Washington having a tough year. They're 4-4. They're a good team, but a tough year. Will Rogers, the transfer from Mississippi State, made the right move because Mississippi State freaking sucks, but Washington is not that great either. Indiana wins 31-17. They are also undefeated. This coach, JMU, last year started 10-0 at JMU. This year went to Indiana, is now 8-0. What a great guy. Missouri and Alabama. Missouri, a promising year. People thought, last year they only lost 2 games, and they got even better, quote unquote, on paper. We thought maybe this is the year they finally compete in the SEC and maybe even win the SEC and upset some people, make the playoffs. They just got torched by Alabama, 34-0, and they probably will get out of the top 25 despite being 2-2. They're now 3-2 in the SEC. Their shot to the playoff out the window. They might not. I don't know. They're in trouble. They're in big trouble. Kansas State and Kansas, a very, very close game, 29-27. Kansas State pulls away and now has won 18 straight against Kansas and improves to 7-1, still in the hunt for the Big 12 at 4-1. Oklahoma, here we go. 4-4, 1-4 in the SEC, gets smacked by Ole Miss with a much needed win, 26-14. People are claiming, "Oh well, Oklahoma, they're hurt. They've got their top 6 receivers out." Don't care. Still suck. SMU barely beats Duke. Duke's potential game-winning kick blocked as time expires. They were at the 19-yard line. I was watching this game. Well, I wasn't watching. I was watching the game cast, and they were at the 19-yard line. The game was over. Duke had won. They got into field goal position. Great field goal position. You can see it to right in front of the goal line, not on the left or the right. Within probably 30 yards, game over, right? It's blocked. Going to overtime. SMU wins. 28-27. Malik Murphy, back up for Texas last year. He played a bit. Transferred to Duke to be the starter. Duke's not that bad. He's got them at 6-2. He had a great game. 295 yards, 2 touchdowns. But they just couldn't do it at the end. Man, that blocked field goal was insane. SMU remains undefeated in ACC play, is now 7-1. And they are looking like the best team in the ACC, in my opinion. Really, truthfully speaking. So that's it for week 9. Let's go ahead and go to the standings. Sorry, the rankings. AP Top 25. Do we have the football playoff rankings yet? No, we don't. All right, so let's go to the AP top 25. Oregon State's number 1, undefeated. Georgia at 2, Penn State at 3, also undefeated. 4, Ohio State. 5, Miami, undefeated. Texas drops down 1 because they played so poorly. I think this is a good move here. Miami is looking better than Texas. So with Tennessee. I personally would put Tennessee above Texas. But Texas falls 1, as Miami stays undefeated, rightfully so. Tennessee is at 7. Notre Dame is at 8. BYU is at 9. And A&M jumps 4 to the top 10. So let's look at this. The Big Ten has 1, 2, 3, the top 4 teams. Meanwhile, SEC has 1, 2, 3, 4 teams in the top 10. They used to have 6 or 7. So the SEC is so competitive that all these top teams are playing each other and beating each other that their rankings are dropping because they incur losses. Because the SEC is by far and large the best conference in the football and so heavily competitive that it's hard to keep the rankings. But let's continue. Iowa State, still undefeated, drops down 1. A&M does have the better strength of schedule, has beaten better teams by a long shot. That makes sense that they should be in the top 10 as opposed to Iowa State. Clemson is at 12. They drop out of top 10 as well. A&M jumps both of them. Indiana is at 13. They're undefeated. Alabama up 1 to 14. Boise State up 2 to 15. LSU drops 8 points to 6-2 at number 16. Kansas State is at 17, just behind LSU. Pittsburgh still undefeated at 18. Ole Miss just within the top 20 at number 19. SMU is in the top 20 now, 7-1. Army now ranked. And as you can see, Navy is not. They're at 21, undefeated. Washington State finally ranked. People have been wanting them to be ranked for a long time, and they finally are. Number 22. They're 7-1. Colorado is back in the top 25 rankings. They are 6-2, and they are looking very, very strong. They could win the Big 12 here. They're a very good team. I think if they had that Nebraska game over again, they would win. Illinois drops 4, still in the top 25, just barely. So is Missouri. Both teams dropped 4, just barely in the top 25. Vanderbilt sitting at number 26, just outside. Memphis just outside. Tulane just outside. So is Navy. So yeah, let's go ahead and now look at what we got next week. San Diego State and Boise State. Ooh, big game right here. Look at that. Ohio State and Penn State. Now, Penn State has been a good team, but when they play Michigan and Ohio State, they always lose. They're always just outside of the best teams in the nation. Is this the year that Penn State can finally do it? Now, Drew Aller might be out for this game, depending on how previous, because he had a knee brace on. That's not a good sign. So obviously, I would assume, Ohio State is favored only by 3.5 points. So we'll see. This is a toss-up. I really gotta believe with you. I think Ohio State wins this game and proves the point that because they're getting ready because they want to play Oregon again and the championship and get their revenge. Duke and Miami. Miami has been saved by a lot. Some people say it's luck. Some people say it's the refs making horrible calls and maybe even cheating. They're playing Duke. Duke is a good team. This could be an upset right here, so don't be afraid. Miami should be afraid of Duke. Really should. They got to play very, very well. Potential big upset here. Ole Miss and Arkansas. Arkansas is 5-3. Not a bad team. They could upset Ole Miss here. I would not be shocked if it happened. Arkansas beat Tennessee. Ole Miss has lost to Kentucky. Going to be a close game, I think. Either it's going to be a close game where your team wins, or Ole Miss makes a statement, has a big statement win, and blows them out. One of the two. Air Force and Army. That should be a blowout. Air Force, obviously, one of the 3 military academies, and they are not one of the 2 good ones. They're 1-6. Army's undefeated. Minnesota and Illinois. Illinois needs this win. Minnesota's 5-3. Not a bad team, but Illinois needs to get this win. Otherwise, they're out of the top 25. Oregon and Michigan. This one should be a blowout. I really think Michigan is not a good team this year. They're not even ranked anymore. They're 5-3. I think Oregon will make a statement, another statement win, and blow out Michigan. But you never know. It'll be a crazy game. Florida and Georgia. Georgia should win this game. As we know, Georgia plays down competition and has struggled at times this year. But Georgia should win this game pretty easily. Should. Texas Tech and Iowa State. Iowa State shockingly undefeated. They should beat Texas Tech here. They really should. Should be a blowout. Indiana and Michigan. This one will definitely be a blowout. Michigan State is garbage, like they have been for the past 5 years. Ever since they made the playoffs 1 year, and ever since then they've been doo-doo. Indiana should blow them out. Kansas State and Houston. None of those games should be a blowout. Houston stinks. Ooh. A&M and Carolina. South Carolina has played a lot of teams very, very close, but they have just had heartbreak after heartbreak, similar to Arkansas. So don't count them out, but this should be an easy win. Louisville and Clemson should be an upset, should be a blowout as well. Louisville is garbage, heavily overrated. Garbage, garbage, garbage. Kentucky 3-5 versus Tennessee. Could be a trap game. Tennessee should smack them, but you never know. Kentucky has a really good defense, good defensive-minded coach. You never know. Pittsburgh and SMU. This should be a good game. The battle for the dominance of the ACC. Will Pittsburgh be undefeated, or will SMU make a statement? We'll have to find out next week. So that's it for this week's recap. Looking forward to a great week next week. Texas is on a bye week, I suppose. Oh well. Anyways, leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more content. Signing out. As always, stay frosty, guys. Bye.